Garland Nixon here. Well, the neocons' brilliant plan to use Ukraine to take out Russia seems to have a few minor flaws, and America's freaking out over a balloon. Let's talk. Hello, all Garland here, and we got plenty to talk about. It's Saturday, and I live at the heart of the U.S. empire. Yes, for those who may wonder where Garland Nixon lives, I'm just outside of D.C., 35 miles from Washington, D.C., right on the edge of the beautiful Chesapeake Bay, beautiful area, and I've come to the conclusion that you watch a movie called Idiocracy. Yeah, like I've woken up in the stupidest, probably the stupidest time that's ever existed in mankind. And it's right here in the United States. It's right here in the empire, as far as I'm concerned. My God, what do we have here? Let's start with Balloon Gate. All right, so if we are just logical, all of your major countries now, of which China is a major it's a technology giant, right? Which means if they're going to spy on other countries, which they are, all countries are going to spy on other countries. And if they're going to spy on the United States, which they are, the United States is threatening them. They're going to spy on the U.S. The U.S. is going to spy on them. And what are they going to use? They're going to use all kind of sophisticated software. They're going to use cameras on satellites that can read a license plate, that can see a guy light a match. You know, the stuff that you read about. They're going to have technology that you just couldn't even imagine. What I'm probably thinking they ain't going to use is balloons. Probably not going back to balloons. Balloons have been very successful in warfare. You know, in World War II, the Brits were pretty successful over London. They took a bunch of balloons, they stuck them up in the air as high as they possibly could. They tied them off with steel cables. So as the planes went through, their props could get caught up in the steel cables. They couldn't see them because it was dark, and they could down some planes that way, right? So, there's been successful with balloons in the past. Let's just say that's a very low technology weapon. Now it's mostly used for weather. You got sophisticated weather computers in these balloons, and they float around at various heights, and they can tell what's going on. The barometric pressure, for instance, you might want to know the barometric pressure. Okay. So apparently there's a couple of these balloons have gotten loose. One of them's over South America somewhere right now, because I guess the Chinese are spying on South America. And one of them floated over the U.S., and that's all the idiots needed here was for a balloon that's from China. And so now in America, yesterday I'm walking around my office, and I got in the office I got we got TVs all over the place, right? Walking around, and there's every major news story in America, every major one. Chinese suspected, that's what you get, suspected spy balloon, as if the Chinese are going to use balloons, because I mean, let's face it, very stealthy, those balloons. They're really, really big. They're easy to pick up on radar, and they float right over your country. And here's what I can tell you. You think with all the satellites, we didn't see the balloons until they got over the U.S. You think the U.S. didn't know those balloons were coming. You think they weren't. You think U.S. radar, satellites, all that didn't see these giant balloons coming up. Yes, they did. They knew they watched the balloons float across the Atlantic till they got here, the Pacific, wherever the hell they floated across the Pacific. And when they got here, and they're like, okay, it looks like a couple of balloons have gotten free from China. They're floating this way. How are we going to spin this? I mean, think about it. They knew the balloons were coming. When the balloons went up, they saw them on satellites and everything else. Everything that's released and flying over China, they see it. Same with Russia, they see it, and the other way around. So they knew these balloons were coming. And they waited until they got over Montana. And they're like, hey, oh my God, there's balloons over Montana. And immediately, here's what you heard. Shoot it down. And Biden's like, well, if we shoot it down and it drops, people can see the stuff and it'll be obvious that it's a weather balloon. So nah, we'll just wait till it gets over the ocean. They'll wait till it gets over the ocean. That way, when they shoot it down, whatever the stuff was on there will go down. Nobody will see, nobody can say, and they can just come back and say, oh yeah, it was purely spy stuff there. Because let's face it, if you're China and you want to spy on America, you got to go to like hot air balloons. This is what this is this. It's the conservative version of the Steele dossier. It's a rubberized version of the Steele dossier. If you read the Steele dossier, if you knew anything about it, only an idiot. There's only two type of people that would believe the Steele dossier. One, a blithering idiot. The other, an ideologue, a person who wanted to believe the Steele dossier, no matter how preposterous it is. So what did we have? We had a bunch of blithering, brain-dead clowns in the blue brainwash cult, and they hated Trump. So it didn't matter what was in the Steele dossier. It could have been blank pages. And somebody could have said, you see those pages there with nothing on them? Yeah, that is evidence that Donald Trump is a puppet for Putin. And they'd have all cheered. There would have been a round of applause. And they could have held it up at the Golden Globe Awards and all of Hollywood would have said, yay, F Trump. Woohoo, we got him now. What do you got? We got a dossier, but that's all blank pages. Yeah, but that's exactly what they want you to think, that blank pages are no evidence. No evidence doesn't mean evidence of no evidence. It means evidence that there is evidence or something. Whatever it was that Donald Rumsfeld said, we got 50 blank pages. They told us that's a dossier that takes Trump out. We hate Trump. Good enough. That's all they needed. They didn't care what was in it. If you actually read the Steele dossier, you'd be like, hey, it says that the Russians were working out of their consulate in Miami, but there's no Russian consulate in Miami. I imagine that part right there. You'd have to take it into question how the Russians would work out of the consulate in Miami when there is no consulate in Miami. And that means that Christopher Steele is a frickin' moron to even write that. And how stupid was that guy? Christopher Steele is a perfect example of idiocracy, that this man could rise to the level that he could put something like that out and hand it to these idiots, and they read it, and they're like, yes, sir, hey, Russian consulate in Miami. We're going with that. That's the evidence we need. We got Trump now. He's a Russian bot. Well, you know what I always say? We got two brainwashed cults. We got the red brainwash cult, and we got the blue brainwash cult. And it's just like a guy who has a girlfriend and she's hot and he don't want to get rid of her. He doesn't want to break up with her. And somebody says, you know, I saw her riding around in Joe's truck the other day and they were kind of smooching or something. He don't want to believe that, because if he believes that, then he's got to break up with her. If he has any self-respect whatsoever, but he doesn't want to believe it because he doesn't want to break up with it. And the guy says, in fact, I got the video here. And he goes, get away from me from that. I don't believe it. It's false video. It's all a fraud. It's a deep fake video. And the guy's like, I don't even know how to do a fake video, dude. I just got this phone, but I mean, you can look. No, you made a deep fake video. That's not my girlfriend. That's not a truck. And my God, that's not her kid. I mean, no, it didn't happen. Right? Why? Because he don't want to believe it, because he don't want to break up with his girlfriend. So he makes up his own reality in which that video doesn't exist. Well, what do we have now? We got the Steele dossier, and then we go to the balloon. The conservatives hate China. They've been taught to hate China. Oh, they're communists. They're evil. It doesn't work. Everything's terrible. They're bad. We're good. So it doesn't matter what you told them. Hey, there's a balloon flying over. Oh, yeah. Where's it from, China? I knew it. We got them sons of bitches down. They done flew a balloon over Montana. They're going down. And you're like, yeah, but it's a weather balloon. No, it's not. It is a suspected spy balloon, not a spy balloon. You read the papers, it's not a spy balloon. It is a suspected spy balloon. And that's even worse than a spy balloon, because the suspected spy balloon is mysterious. Who knows what it is? My God, it's a suspected. We got a spy balloon. Who's scared of that? And over there, we got a suspected spy balloon. My God, no, quick, everybody run. Run for the hills. There's a suspected spy balloon over Montana, for God's sake. Balloon, a spy balloon. Tell me, in Afghanistan, other than the stuff that we sent them, let's face it, the Taliban doesn't have anything, right? They got no technology. They got nothing other than what we left them, which is a lot. The Taliban ain't using spy balloons. If you said to the Taliban, hey, I know, let's use some spy balloons, they'd laugh at you. Come on, dude. We'll go with a camel. We're going to roll with a camel. A camel is much more high tech than a spy balloon. So the poorest country on earth, if you offered them spy balloons, they'd laugh you out of the country. Because let's face it, this is 2023. There ain't no such thing as a spy balloon, although there is suspected spy balloons flying over Montana or wherever the hell that one is drifting in the current westerly currents above the U.S. But no country, no poor country, no rich country, nobody's using spy balloons. They're using weather balloons. They got much better ways to spy than stinking balloons. But if you want to know that the conservatives, if you want to know that the red brainwash cult is every bit as stupid as the blue brainwash cult, all you need is to float a balloon over their heads and watch them poop themselves in horror and all point up to the balloon. And when Joe Biden, who they hate, and they say Joe Biden's a liar about everything, he's a crook, he's a criminal, everything he does is wrong. And then Joe Biden says, we got a Chinese spy balloon. And they're like, did you say Chinese, Joe? Joe, did you say Chinese? Joe, buddy, old pal. We might have been out of line with all of that stuff, calling you a jerk and an idiot and a liar. How did we know that you were our best friend? Chinese spy balloon it is. Go, Joe. Go, Joe. We riding with Joe. He's a liar, criminal, crook. He's the worst person. They never believe him about anything. And as soon as he says the word China, the red brainwash cult turns into blue no matter who, Joe Biden, riding with Biden morons. And they can't even figure out that they look like idiots. Go see, so watch the movie Idiocracy. That's what I feel like. I'm in a insane asylum and I just can't get out. Because everywhere I look, there's another moron. So that's where we are. And it just reinforces to me that you can't be in either one of these parties in the United States because neither of them live in the real world. In the real world, you have to be unbiased. You have to evaluate things based on empirical evidence, based on data, based on historical context, technological context. If you evaluate this balloon based on the context of technology, you would have to say, I'm thinking most countries are probably passing balloons right now for spying. I'm just thinking they're probably a little further than that. A technological context makes it clear that there is no such thing as a spy balloon, least of all in the United States and Russia and China. But then you would have to use a logical, you would have to be using logic in some manner to figure it out. You wouldn't just be able to say, I hate X. China, Russia, Iran, Cuba, whatever. And therefore, anything you tell me about them will be accepted without question, not because it's true or false, but because I don't like them. So if it's bad and you say it about China, it must be true. If it's good and you say it about China, it must be false. And they ask me why I drink. Speaking of that, all right, let us continue. Enough of this. Rubberized versions of Steele dossier. Here's what I'm saying. Let me finish it up like this. I am so glad that I am in neither of these parties so I can sit back on the sideline and watch the shit show and watch the people who think, oh, the Republicans are a bunch of QAnon idiots. Hey, the Steele dossier. Now there we're talking about some good data there. Meanwhile, the other people, can you believe these Democrats? Oh my God. Now me, I'm red-pilled. I am red-pilled. Oh my God. Somebody said, save us. The Chinese have gone back 500 years, back to the Ming Dynasty, and decided to use balloons as a weapon. They're going to fly over it and drop a rock. That's what they're doing. In fact, they got guys in there with binoculars. That's how you use a spy balloon. They're literally floating over. There's a couple of Chinese guys with binoculars looking down saying, hey, what do you see down there? Let's see, we're over Montana. There's a grizzly bear, some cattle, half a dozen sheep. I think I saw a rattlesnake. Oh my God, that's a rattle. That's a big one too. Yeah, that's what we got. Pretty much animals. Beautiful country though. You ever been out to Montana? Big sky country. I guess it's big balloon country now. Well, there's a balloon with obviously a couple of Chinese guys with binoculars and their cell phone, in all likelihood a Huawei, snapping pictures and emailing them back to Beijing. I guess if you're going to take this thing to its logical conclusion, they got a Huawei cell phone that they're taking pictures and they're emailing them right back to Beijing. No, better yet, they're making videos on TikTok and they're putting them up for all of our enemies to see. If you're going to be a moron, you might as well take this thing to its logical conclusion and make it as absurd as you possibly can. Let's move forward. Oh, yeah. Somebody has the military will request billions to research protecting us from bullets. Look, you know what's going to happen. Raytheon, they got to do an anti-weather balloon missile that's going to cost $500 million. Because, I mean, come on. They got to protect us from weather balloons. So Raytheon's going to develop a missile. And when you see it, it's going to look like a pin. It's going to look like a giant safety pin that'll like fly up in the air and blink. We got it. $500 million for a giant jet-powered safety pin to poke a hole. That's pretty much what it would take. Think about this too. If the Chinese were going to spy with us on us in a balloon, don't you think they'd figure out we'd probably be able to pop the balloon and bring it down and see whatever they had? Don't you think they'd be like, well, we'll fly the balloon over the United States because number one, they'll never see it. They'll never see a giant balloon flying over them, number one. Number two, how will they possibly bring it down? They won't be able to bring them down. And it's so stealthy, they can't see it. And then they can't bring it down. And if they do, whatever technologically advanced computer equipment that we have on it, well, they'll never be able to grab that off of the balloon and look at it and figure out what we were doing. Great plan, guys. But if you're a freaking moron and anything they tell you about China you want to believe, you're right there. You're right there. You don't do what I just did. You know what I just did? I just went down the road of thought of whether or not it would make sense for the Chinese to use a balloon as a spy device. And soon as you take a logical walk down that path, it becomes really obvious that it's preposterous, that it makes as much sense as the Steele dossier, in which the Russians worked out of their Russian consulate in Miami that doesn't exist. That's how much sense it makes. But that's why I ain't in either one of these parties, because it's the party of Moronica, the idiots versus the bubbleheads. I guess we'll call them balloon heads now. All right, enough of that. I had enough of it. I can't take this anymore. I can't continue to talk about a balloon. Let's go to the other obvious evidence that the U.S. empire is going straight to hell, that I am in idiocracy. All right. So what's going on in Ukraine? The U.S. came up with a brilliant idea. The idea was, we're going to go to the border of Russia, and we're going to, of course, they're circling Russia, because you know the plan. They're going to encircle Russia with bases. And now what they're going to do with their brilliant plan is they're going to arm the army in Ukraine. Which is exactly what Russia said. They said, don't come to Ukraine because this is what you're going to do. And they're like, okay, we'll do it. They came to Ukraine, they armed the army of Ukraine, and they're like, okay, great, they're going to fight with the Russians. And the Russians send in a handful of guys, and the guys are winning anyway, but they're not winning as they don't have enough people really to hold the territory. So the Russians say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get together a big old crew of people and start beating up on Ukraine and get this thing done with. So now, meanwhile, if you're a neocon and an idiot, you're thinking to yourself, Russia ain't good enough. China's over there. Why, we want to rule the world because we're fascists. And China's getting really, really strong. We're tied down in Ukraine, and China's growing faster than we could have possibly imagined. And so what we're going to do is we got to figure this Ukraine thing out. So now they're coming up with plans. It's obvious. They got Zelensky there, and he's a puppet. So in reality, he never had any power. He's just doing what he's told, and he's a moron. He has no idea. The guy's a comedian. He's a clown. And so he's not really in charge of the country. So now the U.S., a bunch of really bungling idiots, have a gigantic country at war with Russia that's in the process of losing the war. They're entangled of it. Meanwhile, they're looking over at China, and they're saying China's growing. Oh, we got to try to deal with that. But how are we going to deal with this? So now they're looking for a way out, but they ain't smart enough to do it. And here's the other problem. When they got entangled with Russia, before they thought it out, they didn't take into account the possibility that Russia might come out on top. They never thought about that. It was, we're going to go here, we're going to go up against Russia, we're going to sanction Russia, and Russia's economy is going to fall. Plus, Russia will fall on the battlefield, and then meanwhile, we'll wipe out the Europe's economy. So we got three big economies. We're going to wipe out the Russian economy. We're going to wipe out the European economy. We'll have those done, and then we'll move on to China. And the Europeans are so stupid. They're like, yeah, sure. Just, hey, wipe out our economy. Great idea. So off we go. And now they got a tiger by the tail, and they can't hold on, and they can't let go. Because here's the problem. If they lose in Ukraine to some point, what's the point now of confronting China? It's about holding on to world hegemony. And you pushed a world power, Russia, a superpower, a military superpower, you pushed them into a corner. And now they have to fight. And now you need to deal with Russia. Russia don't need to deal with you. They're winning. Russia has the ability to accomplish its goals without a diplomatic resolution. Think about that. That's the important thing to understand about the conflict on Russia's border. And that is, Russia has the ability to accomplish its goals. What were its goals? Demilitarization, denazification of Ukraine. And Russia is in the process of accomplishing its goals. In the midst of this, now that the neocons realize it ain't working, they need to get out. But Russia don't need to get out. In fact, I've made the argument, the longer this thing goes on, the better it is for Russia. You said, when this happens, Russia's going to get weaker, but you're getting weaker. Your alliance is falling apart. Half of France is running around the streets. Things are on fire there. The biggest strikes in history in the UK as the UK economy goes straight to hell. Germany they don't know what to do. Olaf Scholz is weak as a glass of milk, and he's trying to figure out how to deal with the coming revolt in his country. He sees them on the streets in the UK. He sees them on the streets in France, and he knows what's coming. It's just a matter of time before they're on the streets in Germany. So from Russia's perspective, everybody's like, they're coming. Russia's coming ever since November. People in November. Now it's coming, a big offensive. I was like, well, if I was Russia, I'd hold tight. December, the big offensive. My position is, if I was Russia, I wouldn't be in such a rush. I made a video. Time is on Russia and China's side. The longer this thing goes on, the more they win. They're winning. All they do, there was a hip hop song. All I do is win, 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 right? That's all they're doing. They're winning. Why screw it up when you're winning? My dad used to always say, know how to take a win. Right? A lot of people screw up a win. They're winning and they screw it up. Know how to take a win. Know how to accept the win. Know how to understand when you're winning and take advantage of winning. You know, I don't know how many times I've been in court and I've seen people, and everybody's in court, and I spent a lot of time in court in my day, and you're watching somebody talk to the judge and you're saying, he's looking good. That guy's getting off if he shuts up now. He says something, and you can see the body language of the judge. Judge was like, oh, okay, yeah, I understand. And then the judge will ask, well, so did this happen? Yes, yeah, Your Honor. And that happened. And the judge's like, oh, okay. And you're right. Like, the judge is about to let that guy go. An acquittal is imminent. All he has to say is, yes, Your Honor, and that's my story. The judge is going to go, bonk. Case dismissed. You're acquitted, not guilty, all of the above, move on. But they don't know how to take a win, and they keep running their mouths. And before you know it, the judge is like, oh, I didn't know that. Bunk, guilty. If they knew how to take a win, they'd have walked. I think the Russians know how to take a win. And the Russians are like, you know what? If we take our time here, we're demilitarizing all of NATO. You idiots are stupid enough to keep throwing your stuff into the meat grinder. Go ahead, throw some more tanks and whatever, helicopters, whatever you got. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to sit back and say, please, God, no, don't throw us in that briar patch. That's what the Russians are going to do. They're going to sit and say, you better not send some more tanks. And the U.S. is going to go, we'll fix you, then we'll send tanks. Okay, well, you better not send a couple more HIMARS. Oh, no HIMARS, huh? You sons of bitches going to get it now. Send them 4 more HIMARS. And they're just going to sit there with their little list as they blow them up. Hey, guys, what have we done? We've blown up all the HIMARS, calling for some more. Yeah, guys, it'd be really a tragedy if you send another half dozen HIMARS. I mean, we got space for another half dozen HIMARS. Half dozen, yeah. Make it a dozen. Okay, you bastards, we're sending a dozen HIMARS. All right, guys, get the missiles ready. Got another dozen HIMARS coming into the meat grinder. So the Russians are just sitting back there playing throw your stuff in the meat grinder, and they're demilitarizing NATO. Meanwhile, I hate to put it this way, it's terrible, and I don't like this, but I'm going to be honest with you. You can't fight an army. You can't challenge Russia if you got no army people left. And the neocons don't give a crap about the Ukrainians. So they're like, hey, just keep throwing Ukrainians in. And the Russians are like mangling them and maiming them. So what are you going to have? All of the Ukrainian men of fighting age are going to be either dead or their arms and legs blown off or blind or mangled in some kind of way from the shrapnel of artillery. So even if you want to put together an army in Ukraine, you physically will not have the male bodies to do it. They're throwing teenagers, females, anybody at the Russian artillery. So you can throw, after this, whatever's left of Ukraine, which probably ain't going to be much, you can send tanks and stuff there, but the guys left ain't going to have no legs to drive them with. So they will have the physical country of Ukraine will be there, but there will not be the human beings necessary to staff an army to challenge Russia again. And anybody who could is going to be shell shocked. They're going to be like, oh, no, noogity, no. I ain't going back in there and fight Russia no more. No, thank you. So as Russia takes its time and just grinds away, it's working out. And then when the neocons call and say, we want a deal, the Russians are going to say, yes, diplomacy is a good idea. Give us a couple of weeks. We'll get somebody to the table. Say May, right? They get somebody in May. Hey, guys, we thought we could make it in May, but our guys, everybody's on vacation. Can we make it June 1st? They'll keep pushing it back and pushing it back. Maybe they'll do a big offensive. But why do they need to? What they're doing is working. Slowly but surely, Soledar falls, Bakhmut falls. And now the neocons are looking back, and the Pentagon's like, we tried to tell you, idiots, that this wasn't going to work, but no, Putin's going to get overthrown. They're going to surround, the Azov battalion is going to surround Moscow and take Red Square. Oh, yeah, you wouldn't listen to us. And now the Russians are slowly creeping across Ukraine, taking kilometer after kilometer, meter after meter, centimeter after centimeter, just watching this thing fall apart. And as it falls apart, the problem also is this. When somebody's winning like that, to get a deal, the longer you wait, the uglier the deal gets. If you'd have made a deal with Russia a long time ago, could have got a pretty good deal. Now, everything's in Russia's favor, and they know you want out. If I'm selling a used car to you and I know you got to buy that used car, you ain't going to get the best price on that used car. If I was going to sell it for $1,000, it's going to go up to $3,000. If I know you can't walk away from the deal, I'm taking your butt to the cleaners. Right or wrong? Who wouldn't do that? So now when you come to the Russians for a deal, they're going to be sitting there with their arms folded saying, guys, the deal would have looked not all that bad last spring, but this spring, it ain't going to be a pretty deal. Here's a fan belt. You're going to need to bite on this fan belt because you're about to get it. It ain't going to be a good situation here for you. So now, in order for the neocons got a choice. They can go to the Russians and get taken to the cleaners. And you already know what the Russians are going to say. Well, we need a deal. But it ain't just Ukraine. We need you to get your military hardware out of Poland and Romania, off our border. We need you to go back to the 1991 borders. Matter of fact, we want you to go back to 1961 borders. They're going to be like, you could have got a better deal. Now you're going to go all the way back. In fact, we want half of Germany. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, I'm not being facetious, but they're going to say, If you want us to stop, make us a deal that we can't possibly turn away from. Otherwise, we ain't going to stop. And we ain't in a hurry. We know you want out. We are not in a hurry. We're going to slowly creep, 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 and take everything nice and slow. We're going to inch across Ukraine, up the Dnieper River. And then you know what we're going to do? We'll slowly row across in rowboats, a little bit at a time. When we get to the time, we'll saunter across the steppes towards, in the mountains, towards Lviv. They ain't going to be in a rush. And meanwhile, what's happening? You're spending all your money, all your time, all your capital, all of you got to keep throwing stuff there. The European countries are falling apart politically. It benefits Russia not to have a deal, to do two things: to avoid a deal and to move as slow as hell. Garland's in charge of Russia. That's what I do. I'm moving at glacier-like speed. A glacier would pass me. If I was moving along, you'd be like, wow, that glacier only moves 1 inch every 200 years. And it just passed Garland like a jackrabbit. Maybe because he's in reverse. Maybe he ain't moving at all. I'd be moving so slow, it would be like sitting there watching grass grow. You need like a time-lapse camera to see my tank, to see like one track go over. Doink! Watch for like a week, and one track on a tank would go doink. And he'd be like, do you think he moved that tank an inch? I don't know. I think he moved 2 inches, maybe a millimeter, a centimeter. I don't know. I'd move so slow, it would be imperceptible to the human eye. You'd need a time-lapse camera to know how fast I was moving across Ukraine, because I wouldn't be in no rush, because you're the one that needs a deal, not me. And I'm watching you crumble. Meanwhile, as I'm slowly watching you crumble, I'm in Africa making economic deals. I'm expanding BRICS. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization is growing. De-dollarization is happening. New currencies are going down in South America. Things are looking good for me. If I can just hold your dumbass still in Ukraine for an indefinite period of time, so that by the time I get out of Ukraine, there ain't nowhere for you to go. It's checkmate. I stay in Ukraine. You wanted to checkmate me in Ukraine. I'm getting in Ukraine, and I ain't leaving anytime soon. If you understand this, without reading the mainstream media in the West, if you understand what's going on here, you realize that the U.S. empire has trapped itself in Ukraine. It has surrounded itself in Ukraine, and it badly needs to get out of Ukraine, and it can't. And then when I finally left Ukraine, when I finally left Ukraine, if I was Russia, you know what I would do? I'd sign a military compact with China and say, you know what? You guys are threatening both of us. So we've signed a military alliance. You attack one, you attack us all. So now you want to start World War III, do you? Do you want to fight Russia and China now that your allies have had it up to here with you? And they're broke, and their people are in the street furious, and their economy has gone to hell, and they're politically unstable. Now that back home, your politics are unstable, and the 2024 election is coming up, all that's going on. And now I sign a political alliance, a military alliance with Russia, with China of some manner, and you're screwed. Because now what are you going to do? We have time to go to war with China. Now, let me add this. Let me add one other thing. One more thing. China is the United States' number one, numero uno economic partner. And these idiots are talking about going to war with China. What would happen if the U.S. went to war with China? What would happen? Let's start here. You have a lawnmower and you need a part, you can't get it. Need a new computer? Can't get it. Hey, what are you looking for? A hard drive? None available. A lot of food that we buy? Not happening, because a lot of it is gotten packages. It's in packaging that comes from China. Not only that, what is it? 70% of the world's commerce travels through the South China Sea, which would now be a war zone, which 70% of the world's commerce can't move now. You've created a worldwide famine. And guess where we are? We're in the world. You've created a worldwide famine. Guess what? Americans, you need a new TV? Can't get it. You got a Hyundai Yeah, Japan bombed, missiles hit, blown to hell. You need parts for your Toyota, your Lexus, anything. Can't get it. Washing machine, can't get it. Do you need anything? You can't get anything. And then what happens? Companies like Amazon that get all of their stuff, they're closed down. They're done. First of all of these giant technology companies who got all of these servers with all their parts from China, the internet in the United States starts to shut down. You know why? Because you can't get parts for your servers. You can't get parts for major internet infrastructure, starts to crumble. Oh boy, we've got all of this hardware that runs our electrical systems, water systems, all of this hardware that runs that. We can't get it. I wonder why we don't have any electricity, because the computers that run our electric companies can't get parts for it. Oh, by the way, the chips from South Korea, sorry, that's a war zone. Chips from Taiwan, sorry, that's a war zone. Chips from China, sorry, that's a war zone. No chips available, no computers available, no phones available, no anything available. What do you make music and you need a new mixer? Ain't happening. Nothing. Zero. You got to call a boat. Hey, I need some parts for my engine. While the little computer diode on the side of my engine went, crap, none of that's available. Nothing's available. Oh, all of the stores that you go to, the websites you're used to buying things from, yeah, they're all shut down. You can't buy anything, which means all the Amazon workers and the Walmart workers, who are like top employees in the US, they're all out of business. All of these websites, what happens to Twitter, Facebook, all of that hardware with all of their servers and all of the things that make them run that they can't get parts for when it shuts down. All shut down. The internet shuts down, your country shuts down, and you're living in the friggin' Stone Ages. That's what the neocons want. They want to revert us to the Stone Ages. But they're going to start with Europe because they have severed Europe's alliance with its numero uno partner for cheap energy, which is Russia. And guess what? Russia ain't going back. Not happening. It's over. When this is over, they've the way the Europeans have acted towards the Russians, they'll never trust them. They don't like them, and they ain't going back. There ain't no new deals going on with Russia. Nothing. Now, I'll say a couple of things going on that are of great interest. There are a couple of articles starting to arise in Europe, and I kind of think that they are the Europeans firing a shot across the bow of the US empire and the neocons. And they're starting to say, you know, it's kind of clear that Russia is not the one who blew up the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Now, to you and I, we may just look at that and say you have a firm grasp of the obvious. But for the neocons, that's a big statement because you blame everything on Russia. You get up in the morning, you stub your toe on the side of the bed. Damn it, Russia, Putin, everything that happens. You trip and bump your head. Damn Putin. If you're a neocon, everything that happens, you skin your knee, it's Putin's fault. Everything that happened is Putin's fault if you're the neocons. So for them to suddenly say, because everything's blamed on Russia, to say, you know, it's possible that Russia wasn't exactly the country that blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. Now, one could say the elephant in the room, or have a much more apt analogy, the blue whale in a phone booth is everybody who's got half a brain knows that the United States blew it up. Recently, not only did they blow it up, recently, Victoria Nuland spit in the face of Europe. She went in front of Congress, I believe it was Congress, and she said, yeah, ha, 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 to Ted Cruz, just like we said, the Nord Stream is a hunk of metal at the bottom of the sea. In other words, that was her way of saying F the EU. See, the neocons are like serial killers. Serial killers want to get caught. They can't help themselves. They want credit for their killings. They want everybody to know it was them. They don't want to suffer. They don't really care, but they want the glory for what they've done, right? They see it as a glorious event. Okay. Nuland, they blew up the Nord Stream 2. She can't hold it in. She's giddy. We blew it up. She can't come out and say we blew it up, but she couldn't take it anymore. She had to come out and say, damn it, we did it and we don't give a crap who knows. F the EU. What are they going to do? Don't they know who we are? We're the US empire. They are dirt under our feet. How dare they even think that they have the right to say anything to us for blowing up. They're lucky we suffer them the effrontery to exist. So yeah, we blew it up. You're damn right we blew it up. That's basically what you said. Yeah, we said it was gonna be a hunk of metal at the bottom of the sea. It's a hunk of metal at the bottom of the sea. So she comes out and gives the finger to the Europeans. And the Europeans, the best they can do, real tough guys in Europe, they're like, we're willing to consider that it might not have been the Russians. And then the Times of London wrote an article that said, there are those who said, there are those people say there are whisperings in the background that, Biden said they were going to stop it. I mean, maybe. I'm not saying, just saying, I'm not pointing any fingers. I'm just saying, perhaps there are some people, not me, certainly not me. I'm not making any implications here. I'm just saying it's possible that some people might look in the direction of Joe Biden, at least not to say that he did it, but maybe to ask him, hey, Joe, any idea who might have done that? So they're kind of nudging a little bit saying, US, do you really want us to come out and say it? You're pushing us too far. If you push us much further, we're going to have to say it. And imagine if they come out. Imagine what happens if they come out and admit that the United States launched a military attack against Germany. Everybody knows the United States launched a military attack against Germany. The neocons don't give a crap because there's going to be two parts of it. Number one is we were attacked. They told us that the Russians were going to attack us and they attacked us. Not only did they attack us, they don't care. If they come out and they say, the United States did it, they did it. And everybody's in an uproar and they said, United States, we got a problem, you did it. What do you think Blinken and Nuland are going to be like? Yeah, okay, look, guys, time to stop playing games here. Yeah, we did it. Shut up. Okay? You're getting on our nerves here. You know why we did it? Because we can. You mean nothing to us. We don't care. Amuse yourself. Run along. Pretend like there's something you can do about it. There ain't. Now you will shut up and you will do what you were told and we'll go back to you doing what you're told. Remember the part where you shut up. So next time, don't make us blow up your stuff again, because we'll do it if we have to. We've already demonstrated we don't mind blowing up your stuff. So keep your mouth shut and know your place. That's it. The reality is, if the Europeans come to the US and say, we've decided to come clean, you guys blew it up, all the US will say is, well, duh, oh man, yeah, well, thanks a lot there, Captain Obvious. Now shut up. Of course we did it. What, you think we're trying to hide it from you guys? You're nothing to us. You're spineless jellyfish to us. So shut up and go back to what you were doing. And don't make us blow up another one. We got things to do. We don't have enough time to play with our food. Get out. Here's the reality. Europe, they can't stand you. There's a reason that Victoria Nuland said F the EU, because they don't like you. They can't stand you. They are stealing your industry. They don't like you. They tolerate you at best. So at some point, it appears the Europeans may get to the point where they finally have to say, we think they did it. Now there'll be an uproar in Europe and there'll be pushback, and then it'll die down. It'll die down. And then the morons will go get their blue and yellow flags again. They won't have any food. They won't have any heat, but they'll go get their blue and yellow flags and wave them some more and say, we are stand with Ukraine. And then one of these days, just like that, the US will say, well, we won in Ukraine. We're going home. And Europe will be sitting there in a shambles, in a total and complete and absolute shambles. And they will say to the US, what was this all about? And the US will once again say, shut up. But we're in a shambles. Oh boy, yeah, who really would have figured that out? Shut up. We don't care. We got things to do. You are expendable. You're like trash to us. You are dispensable, okay? We don't talk to trash. We don't negotiate with trash. We throw trash away when we're finished with it. You are a waste product. Europe is a waste product, literally a waste product of US imperialism. That's all you are. You're the equivalent of poop. As far as the neocons concerned, when they eat Europe, which they're taking in, they're taking all your sustenance. They're taking your money. They're taking your military equipment. They're taking your industry, and they'll poop something out, and there's something left. There's a waste product. U.S. imperialism has consumed Europe, and the waste product that will be left will be what the EU will be. And then they'll move on. And then they'll say, oh, by the way, guys, get ready for the assault on China. And Europe will be like, but there's nothing left. There's got to be something left. We've taken 99% of everything you got. But we look over there and you got 1% left. We're going to use that against China. And you know what? Olaf Scholz, Macron, Rishi Sunak, what do you think they'll do? Say no? If the European people are as they've been in the past, they will put down their blue and yellow flags and pick up a Taiwanese flag and march straight into the bowels of hell like they just did before. They'll watch the BBC and Deutsche Welle, and they'll be taken down the garden path to destruction, and they will merrily saunter down that maybe I'm being, I don't know, maybe I'm being too fatalistic, but that's, you are what your record says you are. And look at Europe. A lot of them are still going along with Ukraine, and Russia seems to be fine. The shelves are full. You know what I haven't heard about? The price of eggs going up in Russia. Russians, I've seen all kind of videos. I know people in Russia. I talked to them. The shelves are stocked. They're cranking their heat up. They pay practically nothing. Pennies for electricity. Pennies for fuel. Like free ride around for free on public transportation. The Russians are doing pretty damn good right now. And the Europeans' life is an unholy hell with a bunch of freaking millions of Ukrainian refugees wandering all over creation. And the Russians are doing okay. And I kind of think sometimes with the Biden administration, that was kind of part of the plan to ensure that the Ukrainians were that the Europeans were toast. And if there's anything left, they'll take that to go after China. But the problem, let me end by saying this. The problem is they're trying to maintain world hegemony. And when, not if, they lose it all in Ukraine, what's the point of trying to push for world hegemony when you've already lost it? What's the point of saying we've got to stop China from being able to stand up against us because we've got to maintain world hegemony when Russia has already stood up against you and won? The problem is they put themselves in a position that they can't move on from Russia, because to move on from Russia is to lose, because Russia don't just want a little bit. To get a deal with Russia, you're going to have to bow to them. You're going to have to give them every damn thing they want, or they ain't backing down. They ain't backing down. They're going to clean house, and they're going to commence to whoop behind in Ukraine. So to get a deal with Russia ain't going to be easy. You're going to have to pay, and pay dearly. Now, what they may just do is sacrifice Europe. Hey, Europe. Hey, Russia, here's what we'll do. What do you want out of Europe? We'll give you everything. They give you everything. They want their money. You want what do you want? Everything you want from Europe, you can have. It's yours. Right? Yeah, I'll tell you what, from the Ukrainian border to the North Sea, Ireland, would you like Ireland? And the British Isles, take all of that. You can have it. Well, don't worry about the Europeans. They have no say in that. Just expand back and take all. Let's face it. We don't want them. Have you looked at Europe yet lately? Ain't exactly the prettiest place in the world. Would you like to have it? Of course, the Russians would then look at Europe and say, yeah, dude, with that crap hole. No, thanks. You can keep it. So really, the fight or the war could be over who takes Europe, because the U.S. may say, well, wait a minute. We'll let you get away with a lot, but you ain't saddling us with this pile of crap. So they may actually be a war between the United States and Russia, not over who takes Europe, but who gets rid of Europe. Because they both want it out of their hair. Because let's face it, they've turned it into a smoking pile of garbage. The economy on the way down. I'm reading articles the other day about the UK. Literally, look it up. Kids coming to school with no coats, stealing food. Crime rampant. And the rest of Europe is heading the same place. It's all heading the same place. It's going to be a disaster area. And that was what the U.S. planned. And Russia ain't going to want no parts of it. So Europe's going to try, Russia's going to, the U.S. may do one of two things, try to unload Europe as best they can, get it off their stinking back. And if they can use a little bit of whatever's left as ammunition to go after China, they might do that. But other than that, Europe is done. Europe has been used up. It's expendable. It's done. They're moving on from that. Bad news for you, Europe. That's life. It is what it is. That's what you got. Unfortunately, when you tied alongside the U.S. empire, you cozied up with sociopaths. You know what it reminds me of? The vampire movies. A vampire always has like a human assistant that helps them, but at some point they end up biting the human assistant in the neck. Why? And the human assistant's like, yeah, you're going to look out for me. The vampire's like, yeah, sure, of course. And then at some point they're like, man, I'm hungry and I don't have anybody else except you, the human assistant. I guess I'm going to have to bite you. And the human assistant's like, hey, I thought I was on your side. Well, not really. Because, I'm a vampire. And when I get hungry, closest guy gets bit in the neck. And now that's going to be you. You knew that. You knew I was a vampire when you signed up for the deal. What'd you think I was? Some kind of a, Mother Teresa here? No, you're working for a vampire. Things can always go bad, right? That's Europe. You signed up with the neocons. At some point, they're going to get hungry and bite you in the neck. We're at that point. And if you didn't want that, you shouldn't have signed up with the neocons, Europe. Unfortunately for the people of Europe, they're going to get that too. But at any rate, so it is what it is. Let me look. I'm going to see. I think I might have. Let me start at the top. We really don't have much in the way of super chats, but that's okay. It's a beautiful Saturday, and there's 1,800 people, 1,800 of my dearest friends. And I don't know if I even made any sense today. If you understand Garland Nixon, here's what you understand. I just say what I'm thinking. All you get is a flow of consciousness. What's coming, what's in my mind is what comes out. It's not planned. It's not written down. I have no, set way of doing things. I just start on a topic and I just rattle off. And sometimes it's really good. And sometimes it's probably really, really, really foolish. I don't know, but it is what it is. Akram, thank you. Akram Nasser Bakht. Oh, who we got here? Thank you, Jura Maladi. Man, I know I'm botching some names. I know I'm screwing some names up, but that's okay. All right, let's go. Oh, nope, nobody, nothing over. Well, let me look. But the balloon thing didn't sound legit first time I heard about it. I thought, how silly, unless it came down from Canada, which would have seen them. Our balloon defense system needs update. It's a joke, defending ourselves on balloons. Indeed. Okay, let's see. A couple people on Rockfin might have a question. Yes, they didn't detect it until it got to Montana. Sounds like an admission of guilt or something. Yeah, come on. If you know what I mean, really, they couldn't see a giant balloon on radar until it got to Montana. My question would be, how does the end game play out for the neocons? I think Russia just keeps on pushing. And they take as much as they want. And when they're done, they're done. And I think at some point, the point may come where the Europeans wake up to some extent, or more likely than not, at some point, there will be some change of power in Europe. There's going to be a new set of ruling elite people there. The people there have so spectacularly failed that, the Ursula von der Leyens of the world and the people like that, the Macrons and the Schultzes, I think at some point, the people of Europe are going to wake up and say, this ain't working for us. And there could be violence. There could be some violent change, but there's going to be some changes of power. Let's see. We got anything else? Let me look and just find a question. Why do you think the EU is not going to last train, put a, well, that's a little, X-rated. The rest of the world should start building up walls around NATO and US when the food and fuel and energy is ready. Yeah, you got a point there. It's going to look like one of those apocalyptic movies. I knew Captain Beefheart and his Magic Man wanted something in 1969 when they released their hit song, The Blimp. That's funny. Kevin Tewey, I was looking at Ecuador too, watching lots of Amelia, but I'm worried about when the dollar crashes. Also, they just accepted a drag Q story hour from the U.S. State Department. Oh, geez, you guys are a mess. Anything? Adina says, oh, thanks a lot, Adina. Okay. Roman says, excellent job, sir. The war will be fought over Africa, not Europe. Too many natural resources. I agree. But it's going to be hard. Hey, Garland, have you seen now the Republicans are banning socialism? New Cold War. Also, have you checked into Garcia Luna trial? I don't know anything about the Garcia Luna trial. Yeah, they're having some absurd vote in the House to condemn the horrors of socialism. You know, again, it just goes to show that this is all about ideology. People can't afford to live in the United States. We got lean-tos in tent cities, and these people are having an ideological vote over the horrors of socialism. How about the horrors of neoliberalism? We are living through the horrors of neoliberalism, living through them, and they're talking about the horrors of socialism. Oh, let's see what we got. That balloon is not China. Don't be. They're playing game because they don't know nothing what it is or whose. Yeah, they know whose it is, I think. Yes, another Iron Curtain is needed if we don't affect the civilized world. Yeah, what's coming up next? You know, another bird flu. The balloon has been shot down. The U.S. officially declared a new war against balloons. Oh my gosh, the war on balloons, just like the war on terror. 130 Democrats voted for. Of course, yeah, that's something they can do. Stealth balloons, scared Stoltenberg and Pentagon buffoons. I work from home for the United States. My friend's aunt makes 164 an hour on the computer. She has been unemployed for 8 months, but last 8 months her salary was 25,000 just from working on the computer for a few hours. Check the details. Okay, geez, what are you talking about here? Can I block this person? Block. Jeez. You know, you can make money on the computer, $25,000 a second. All you got to do is click here and give us your bank account information. Yeah, they didn't detect it until it got them. Okay, what else we got? Anything else? I'm a vampire. I don't need your appreciation or official recognition, but I have the right to not be hated or ridiculed by ignorant Western peasants. Very good one. No European country have the courage to say the U.S. blew up the pipelines. It's right. Everybody knows they blew up the pipelines. The horrors of corporate socialism. Yes. Biden administration making the world safe for corporate oligarchs. Well, just think all those trillions on defense and they can't even defend us from a balloon. Yeah. You know, but look, here's what I said. Think about this. You think they haven't been following that balloon from where it took off to where it is now via radar? And people are like, they can't defend. They knew where the balloon was. They know everything about the balloon. They know what this balloon is. They know all they need to know about the balloon. This bull crap about the balloon is for us. It's propaganda. It's weapons of mass destruction. It is the Steele dossier. The BSers are showing the balloon path going across the Pacific and across Alaska and down through British Columbia. They're showing its path like a satellite. It was not a satellite. It's impossible. Again, they're showing the balloon's path, which means they've been following the balloon the whole time. But if they'd been following it, right? Why did they wait until it got over the U.S. to say anything? Why didn't they say when it's over the Pacific, well, it looked like there's a balloon gone awry over the Pacific? And let me add this. So they're following this thing across the Pacific. They're following this thing, a balloon coming towards the shores of the U.S. If they wanted to, quote, shoot the balloon down, this thing ain't moving at Mach 5, for God's sake. So they could have long shot the balloon down over Alaska. I mean, long before it got to Alaska, they could have called the Chinese and said, hey, guys, looks like your balloon's heading our way. And if the Chinese said, yeah, we kind of lost control of it. You can't really steer a balloon once it gets up there in the westerly winds. They could have said, we're shooting the balloon down before it gets to the U.S. shore. But they didn't want to shoot the balloon down before it gets to the western shore. They then, you know, they got meteorologists. They looked at the wind path and they predicted the flight path of the balloon. And they're like, okay, well, once it gets right here, that's when we'll tell America, oh, we just suddenly, I mean, we didn't realize, we suddenly noticed that there was a balloon over America, over Montana. Well, we didn't even know until it got there. You got to be an idiot to believe that. Amazing display of USA military strength. It's a good thing China signed it. Do any of y'all know anything? Anybody buying into this balloon stuff? Ah, come on. If you are a Republican, you got to do it because you're a member of cults, and cults all act alike. Cults all think alike. Cults all react alike. If you're a Republican, if you're a Democrat, you had to go along with Russiagate. If you're a Republican, you got to go along with Balloongate. You're in a cult. Let's face it, these are cults, and these are how cults do culty stuff. All right, thanks a lot, everybody. I am kind of tired. I think that's it. I think we got everybody. All right. I will end like I always do. Let me see. It says launch from Washington State. I like I always do. You see everything going across the side. Follow me on Telegram. Follow me at Patreon if you can afford to help the channel on Patreon, or PayPal, or of course, buymeacoffee.com/Garland NH. There's Cash App, however you can help the channel. I would appreciate it if you can afford it. If you don't, keep the money for your family. Last but not least, and this is critical, I'm on Rockfin. Rockfin is a free speech channel that does not have advertisements. I love Rockfin. It's like YouTube, only better. I always say, because there's no advertisements for people. You don't have to pay anything. It's free. However, just so you'll know, Rockfin does need to eat. They need to. How do they stay on the air with no advertisements? It's quite simple. They do subscribers. Every one of the content creators on Rockfin does a at least one weekly show, which is subscriber only. If you want to be a subscriber, it's $14.99 a month or $9.99 a month, because if you sign up for a year, they give you 2 free months. My subscriber only show is every Wednesday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. with Scott Ritter, where we review all of the stuff going on the battlefield and everything. But you don't have to do that. If you sign up on Rockfin for free, just go over there and follow me for free, rockfin.com/Garland Nixon. You'll see everything other than my one subscriber only show with Scott Ritter. So if you can afford it, hey, that'd be great. That'd really help me out. If you know, help out Rockfin, keep it on the air, help out the channel, all that stuff. But if you can't, don't worry about it. Hey, you'll get everything else but that. So thanks a lot, everybody. Last but not least, I got a couple more people. Thank you, Mr. Tommy 0201. And there was another one, maybe a question. Fadisa says, it's no coincidence that wacky general stated we need to invade China in 2025, and a few days later we have a China threat. Yeah, you kind of can put you put 2 and 2 together, right? Brilliant. Exactly. Come on, man. They don't want to shoot this thing down, this down. It's working for them. They're playing it as long as they can. If they shoot it down, they'll be like, okay, it fell. Let's go look at the equipment and see if it really is a spy balloon. See if it really is a spy balloon, or whether that's weather monitoring equipment. Oh, darn, yeah, that's right. That's why you're shooting the damn thing down. They'll claim they shot it down once it's in the Atlantic Ocean. Oh, we shot it down, and oh, what do you know? Everything sank to the bottom of the ocean. I guess we can't check. We'll just have to assume it was a spy balloon. Out of here with that. Did the madness get to you too? Yes, the madness got to me. It's balloons all the way down. They're taking us out. I should have known the Chinese would have used balloons. Who saw that? Because we'd never see it coming. That's why they're using balloons. Thanks a lot, everybody. I wouldn't like to follow a balloon. Scared of heights. Thanks a lot, you all. Peace. I'm out.